I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking scale matters. You're thinking performance matters. But above everything, you think security matters. Who can you really trust and why? What have experts in the field decided? We're going to reach out to those experts, see what they thought through, and understand their thought process, see who they chose in the end. That's this episode of Dev Radio. Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Microsoft Dev Radio. I'm Jerry Nixon, and I'm here excitedly with a technical evangelist out of Germany. He's Daniel. Daniel, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. Hi.
Daniel, say your last name for me.
Daniel Kreuzhofer.
That's what I was going to say, but I opted not to. Daniel, how long have you been part of DX in Evangelist?
Yeah, I've moved there. It was right about March last year, and 4 years before that, I worked for Microsoft Services Department in Germany.
Ah, well, welcome to the best team on earth, the evangelism team. Let's now tell me, you're in Germany. Specifically, where are you in Germany?
We are located in Munich, and the exciting part is we have a pretty nice new office. We moved there right about September last year, and it's really exciting. So it's a bit like the Copenhagen office, so very fresh, very open, nice insides, very, very bright and friendly, and I like it very much.
The cooler they make the Denver office where I am, I mean, it's neat every time. They're constantly, it seems like constantly under construction. It's neater and neater, and the more cool and awesome it is, the more I work from home. I'm like, it's too much to take in. It's too awesome for me, and it's too much collaboration. Somebody needs to just slip the pizza under the door for me sometimes, and that's the way it is. Now, tell me, what type of an evangelist are you? I know we're broken up into breadth and ISV and startup. Where do you fit into the pizza?
Yeah, I'm working mainly at the ISV part of DX. To be honest, we had this split the last years in Germany especially, and we decided to bring the team together now. So we have one team now, so there's no separation anymore between breadth and depth teams, which is really cool.
Wow.
Anybody who was working in the breadth team before, they have to be more technical now. And we have to do more talks and stage appearances, so that's I think it's a pretty good thing that we have one team now.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard some rumors that some things like that are going to be happening everywhere, so that's pretty exciting. Gives everybody a chance to kind of do everything, and I feel like in the end it serves our customers a little bit better as well when everybody's a drop more technical. We also have Stuart Paris on the call, and Stuart, you're the head of product management for video surveillance products. Very interesting. Welcome to the call. You're also in Germany.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on the show. Yes, I'm also located in Germany, in the best part of Germany actually, in the south part, very close to Daniel. Okay. So I'm very excited to be on the show with you guys, and yeah, looking forward.
In the best part of Germany. Those are strong words all of a sudden, if I lived in Hamburg or somewhere. So, okay, well, welcome to the show. Tell me just a little bit about who you are. Are you a software developer, or who is Mr. Paris?
Actually, I'm the head of product management for video surveillance products. So my team and myself are responsible for any kind of video products. This could be IP cameras, recorders, software, in order to surveil any kind of premises.
I see. So I have a construction yard, and I want to make sure that when all my employees go home, everything is safe, and I can use your products to do that. Or I might even want to use your products to make sure my employees are being safe on the job. And so I go to your product. Now tell me a little bit about your company for a second.
Okay. ABUS was founded in 1924, and it's the most trusted German brand when it comes to security products. So next to mechanical solutions, we also offer security solutions for alarm systems, access control, and of course, video surveillance. And in combination, we can make this pretty unique, so these all work together. And so you could have an alarm panel which is connected to a video surveillance product, and they could communicate with each other.
Fascinating. You're a one-stop shop for almost every security need a company might have. That's pretty fascinating. Talk to me a little bit about, as technology is changing, how is security changing as well? When a company like yours in 1924, I think you said, that's a long time ago. Obviously, you didn't have IP cameras back then. Things have changed as technology has started to become so prevalent and so easy now. How has the company changed? How do you feel like ABUS is different than it was even probably 10 years ago?
Well, over the last 10 years, of course, the biggest change was that all products became some kind of online. So they all received a network connector, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And this made things a lot easier because at the same time, everybody was starting to have one of these mobile devices. And the demand also raised that everybody wanted to check their products online.
Okay. Yeah.
And on the go from everywhere.
So they want this real-time kind of view into everything that's going on, no matter what's going on, where they are, what time of day it is. And of course, that's something that I guess, honestly, we're all kind of accustomed to, but it is actually a novel idea. Security used to be a little bit different than that in the past. And talk to me about security and new challenges now that we see all of these devices connected. What is ABUS seeing as far as new challenges that are coming up on the horizon that they're getting to kind of deal with and becoming a market leader in?
Well, I guess the point is that the devices are more or less online now. But what we need to do now is to connect these devices in order for them to communicate with each other. And the best way to do this is, of course, in the cloud. So first we need to enable them to talk to the cloud. And in a second step, we then can combine different features to make them even more intelligent. So I guess this is the way the business is going. And this is also the same demand which our customers have. They want to have one platform where they can connect to, and they have all the devices online, and they can communicate with them, or they can set them up, or they can set up different rules.
But as we start engaging with the cloud, a lot of customers start thinking about data security, start thinking about things along the lines of encryption and pieces like that. What do you see as far as Azure's ability to meet those needs?
Yeah, there's a few aspects to that. I think one of the main things people think about is, where is my data? Who has my data, and how can I control what happens with my data? And so what we had in Germany especially were a lot of customers demanding for a physical location in Germany where they can store their data, still using the same technologies Microsoft offers in other data centers. So that's the reason why we have the German cloud now. And that was our first point of contact with ABUS, was about how can we store our data safely, and how can we communicate safely with our products, and how can we meet regulations. For example, in different industries, there is a specific demand for saving data locally. So that's what we talked about in the beginning. So we envisioned an idea of the whole process, from generating the data, transferring the data, storing the data, and then also using the data to make things more intelligent. And one of the really main factors there is the German cloud that we offer now.
Well, and think about the alternative. The alternative would be to say, I go and I say, now, Stuart, I need you to build out these servers yourself so that we can store them. But all of those regulations that we have to think about, they would apply to him as well, not just Azure because it's Azure. And so now we have to hire our new chief regulation officer or whoever it is to keep track of all of this. That's part of the value of using a cloud like Azure, where they meet all of those regulations, they find all those certifications and have them, and they kind of bear the burden of, now what are we required in this geography, what are required in this industry. There's a lot of different pieces in order to manage that. And so tell me a little bit about the German cloud. The German cloud is Azure with maybe a fence around it in the German geography?
Yeah, it's a construct that we have with T-Systems, which means that Microsoft built the cloud data centers in Germany, And then basically we handed over the keys to them and said, you are now the owner of the data center, you are protecting the data, and whatever happens from a, say, regulation or a trust perspective is your part. And whoever asks to access the data, whether it might be a judge or a court, they have to ask the T-Systems, which is a German company, first, and then they come to Microsoft and say, okay, we have this customer, he wants to access the data. We ask the customer, is it okay for Microsoft to hand over the data? Of course, if it's a German judge, we have to follow the rules, of course, but there is no way, for example, a foreign country like the USA can just go there and ask for the data without asking a German regulator. Yeah, so that's
fascinating.
The main thing there.
I see. And Germany's not unique in that. We're seeing that in a lot of different places.
It's a big trend. So I think the local cloud is actually a trend. So we see this in many different locations now, that companies want to save the data locally. For example, in France, it's quite similar. And I think we are following this trend very, very closely.
Tell me some of the steps that you think about when you're trying to choose a vendor that's going to hold the data that you store for your devices.
Actually, this is a real good point, because in the whole decision-making process, this was the most crucial point for us. Because privacy for our customers and for us is the biggest thing, okay? We have to think of that our products safeguard our customers. We are talking of products which are safeguarding your loved ones, your premises, your homes, your businesses. And this is the most valuable data you can have. So for us it was clear, we had to gear up with the strongest partner and somebody who is in line with the German law, of course. Because only this combination will make sure that we have the German law on one side, which is for the privacy very important. At the same time, of course, we need the strong partner which knows about how to secure the data. Not only physically, but also, by encrypting it and ever. And you just mentioned it. Yes, we are building up a team, of course, of software engineers and software developers at the moment here at ABUS. But we don't want to have experts just doing the data privacy issues. So that's why here we trust, of course, Microsoft.
Yeah. Now, there's always a dance, a little balance that's going on. A customer comes to you and they say, I want to be able to see what's going on in my devices, no matter where I am, no matter what time of day it is. But a lot of that needs to be balanced against actual security. And, their geographic location does actually play a role in the ability to access the data in certain ways. How does ABUS approach that? You want to give every feature, I'm sure, to your customers, but at the same time, you want to make everything as secure as possible as well. What are some of the considerations that ABUS brings to the table?
Well, our solution for this is that at the moment, all systems will also have a local backup. So they will always work even offline. All the extra benefits and the goodies, which makes it really interesting, these will most probably happen online. But it's very, very important that even, if you don't have a connection to the internet, your alarm system or your access control will work. Just think of the case, you come home in the evening, you want to open your door with the access control. For some reason you have no internet and you cannot open the door. This is no way this can happen. So we always have to make sure that we have a local backup at the customer side. And if you have the internet connection, you get all the benefits.
Nice. There's so many things to think through, so many different scenarios. Daniel, this is a fascinating project. Talk to me a little bit at a high level. What is the project here?
Yeah, so we started I think last year, it was end of the year, we talked to ABUS at a trade fair, and then we decided to have some conversation about envisioning basically what can be done with Microsoft technology to help ABUS to achieve the next level in terms of security and data privacy, and also cloud services to enrich their existing products, right? So we did basically this in envisioning sessions, and we decided to go little baby steps and do proof of concepts, what can be done with our technology and how we can help make the products better. And so the process started there, and then we had some, let's say, high-level architecture, which means we looked at several different parts, several different products. We started with the security panel and then also the security cameras, and took those and said, okay, what are the main features that we need when we look at the cloud solution? And the main features were, okay, I want to know, is my alarm panel, is it on? So is it basically enabled when I leave the house? Sure. Sometimes you leave the house and you think about, oh, maybe I did forget to set up the alarm, so I can check that and I can do that, I can enable it. And the other thing is I want to get alerted when something happens at my home. And the same applies for the security camera. I want to have, let's say, the first idea was what can we do with the camera systems? So they can somehow be connected to the internet, but we want to make it secure. So we want to have access to the video and at the same time enrich that with some intelligence. So that's the idea, to be able to know, okay, there is somebody standing in front of my door. Who is that person? Do I know that person? Maybe I want to let this person in. And maybe the system can tell me already, okay, this is somebody I know. I have given him access to the door, so the door will open. It will maybe just ask for confirmation. So scenarios like that. And the architecture starts with as Stuart said it very right. We have a local component at your house, which is basically taking care that even if there's no internet connection, these basic scenarios will work. And this component is running Windows 10 IoT Core, and then it connects to the cloud part, and then there the magic basically happens in terms of enrichment of all these scenarios. So we're using various Azure technologies to do that, but the main thing is that we have a local part and then we have a cloud part, and the local part can live for a while without the cloud.
Well, and I can see the reason as well. Talk to me just a little bit about video products. How does video different than typical IoT?
Yeah, the thing there is video generates a lot more data, basically. So you have just the raw data that comes through the pipe when you watch a video is X times higher and multiple times higher, and this generates a few problems actually. So you have to move the data from A to B in terms of just transferring an IoT message, which is very small and can be compressed very, very good, like say a few bytes. That is not an issue, and you can do that over a mobile connection very well. But when it comes to video, you have the issue that you need a bandwidth. It starts with, of course, the video quality. You want to see things like, so you have high resolutions, good quality, especially ABUS products. They have a high resolution and a very high bandwidth capacity. So you have to take care of all these things, and the cloud needs to have the capacity to transfer that data to the customer. And at the same time, you have like the demand for adapting the stream to the customer's end device. So you have let's say, starting with a high quality stream, which can be transferred to the cloud. But what happens then? You have a small device and maybe your connection is bad. So you surely don't want to have all this data transferred to your device. You want to have some adaptive streaming to your device. Yeah. So these are the challenges.
That becomes pretty complicated as soon as I start thinking about just that much data and then how to process it properly. Inside Azure, what services are you going to tap into to be able to enable that kind of data and use that type of data?
Yeah, when we talk about the video part, there's a few considerations. So we can use Azure Media Services, for example, to archive and record data. There is a part of Azure Media Services that can do live streaming, but there is also other solutions for that. It depends a bit on how say problematic or how critical the latency for you is. So if you are very focused on having a low latency, so you want to see the video, let's say 500 milliseconds after it was produced, there will be other solutions. But when it comes to, let's say, long-term recording or reviewing situations that happened in the past, media services is absolutely perfect, for example. And then in terms of the messaging control mechanisms to transfer information back and forth, we use IoT Hub, which is, let's say, one part of the solution. So to have some sort of control and device management.
I know you had an expectation going into this. You had a business problem that you needed to solve. And then along comes Daniel, and he's got a solution using Azure and other different pieces. What was your reaction? What did you think of the solution as it was coming together?
Well, honestly, at the beginning, I was thinking that, wow, this project is going to take forever, okay? Everything needs to be programmed. You start right from the beginning, right from scratch. And for me, it was amazing to see that, after the first 2 meetings, Daniel already scribbled the architecture of this cloud system on a whiteboard. And maybe another 2 days later, he called me and said, well, the first part's already finished. You can already test it, And so learning that, so much is already available. And this is the great thing for me about Azure, there's so many different features already available for us. All you need to do is select the right ones and put them together like a puzzle and make them work for you, and then, combine them intelligently. So this is for me the great part, to see that, you don't start from scratch, and there's so much already available from other projects which you just can reuse for our solutions.
Well, Daniel, he makes it sound like it was amazing. Sounds like it was.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
Azure's kind of like Legos, isn't it? Where you just put these Legos together, and sure, there's going to be some work on your side, but not as much as you expect. Keep going, Daniel. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure. I guess it's like a Lego system. So you have all these parts. Of course, there's a bit of plumbing that you have to do. As we say now, we are the plumbers basically doing the work. But a few pieces you have to do. I mean, a few pieces have to be written, of course, in code. And that's where, let's say, the special things happen. So you have all these pieces, and then the sum is bigger than the sum of the pieces. And it was the process there was, I think, for the first time when we did this in Germany in such a scale. And I invested a lot of time because it was also such a fun part to do that. Sure. And to work together with the customers. So it was different than with other customers, for example, where the challenges were there, but this time it was really much more fun.
Yeah, it's so funny that in our industry, think that work is fun, but so often that is the case because it's so creative and you're able to make such a difference. It's really it's amazing actually, and very unexpected. Now you talked about scale. Obviously, ABUS is going to need to scale enormously. One of the characteristics of your architecture, I know, is app services functions that you've introduced from Azure, and we can use functions as tiny little atomic operations that can scale so big. Tell me a little bit about what you did with Azure Functions.
Yeah, so we used Azure Functions to process messages coming from the devices. So you can imagine the devices will produce a lot of statistical data to analyze. For example, we have log messages, we have information about how healthy the devices are. So telemetry from the data from the devices, and we need to take this data, first pipe it through some channel to the cloud. And this channel is, there is only one channel, you have to imagine, and you have to distinguish at the other end. You have to separate all these things and say, okay, this is this kind of information. It has to go this way because it needs to be analyzed data. And then you have the real-time information which needs to be processed right now. And then you have debugging information that you want to use to make the system better and to find problems. So the first thing is you have to make decisions in the cloud and to direct things in the right way. So that's the first thing that we used Azure Functions for. Because there's other things like stream analytics, but in terms of the latency, I think Azure Function is one big thing that makes it much faster to process all this information. And then afterwards, in the Azure Functions, we can also send this information, for example, to cognitive services to process images. For example, that's one part that's possible there, and that's why we decided to use it, because it scales.
Sure.
Because it basically doesn't matter how many messages come in. There will be, let's say, a switch which we can pull and say, okay, we need more capacity now. The shared hosting model, for example, is not enough anymore for us. We can switch over and go to, let's say, our
I
own
think it's
hosting
worth
environment.
developers hearing this idea of scale goes both ways. Capacity scaling inside Azure, not just functions, but everything else, scales up. I mean, not infinitely, but it really can scale up. But it can also scale down so that you don't have to have $1 million proof of concept project. It can really be on a shoestring budget, and all of a sudden you realize you like it, you love it, and you want it in your business. And now all of a sudden you just slide that slider, and all of a sudden you have the ability to scale up to real business, right? And your ability to handle all of your customers' data. So this idea of scaling, I think, is super valuable. So we have Azure Functions as an important part because I can do this. What do you see as additional services inside Azure? I heard you mention cognitive services. What are some of, if that's not what you're using today, what might it be tomorrow?
Yeah, I think there's potential for machine learning services. Just one sample. So once we have the data in the cloud, I think that's the first thing is to make a secure connectivity, to have a way to transfer the data back and forth, and to have a secure way to do that, and to control and manage the devices, because the onboarding, for example, is also something that needs to be secure, but at the same time needs to be convenient. So you have to find a balance between I want to have something that's convenient and easy, and on the other side it needs to be very secure so nobody can break in. Right. And then you have, once you have done this, you can do a lot of things, like you can enrich this data and take this data and analyze it and make something that's more than just the data. So like find out what's wrong with the devices. May they probably go may there, for example, be failures coming up because there is something that we can see in the future happening with those devices, or can we find out what a specific kind of person is doing? So let's say he's enabling a feature that helps him control his house and find out what is he at home or not. I mean, you can find this out in various different ways, but you could also try to do this with technology like ABUS offers to find out is somebody at home or not. Yeah. So usually he switches on the alert panel, and then surely he's out of his home. But let's say he has forgotten to enable it. Can the system be intelligent and find out if somebody is at home or not? So this could be a scenario I could imagine, and that can be enabled through the cloud.
Good work.
Thank you. It was actually not only the technical part. So I think the fun comes if you have an idea how a product could evolve in terms of IBIS. It was, let's say, we have the legacy products, and the way they did business was shipping and selling these products for a long time now. So to basically the model changes. And the interesting discussion is not only about the technical part for me, it's also about to talk about how can they make money in the future. And we don't have to think only about how can we solve this in a technical way, but also how can we assist them by build a new business model, or to at least to change it or to add something on top of it to make money in a different way. And that's where we can assist, and that's what actually makes this whole setup very interesting. So we can tell them we have scenarios that exist. We can tell them how other customers make money with the cloud, and this applies here as well.
I think it's neat how the theme over and over again is the value of Microsoft as a partner is legit. It's not just something we talk about. Now, let me back up for a second. There's a developer watching this show, and they're very interested, especially in some of the higher end things that you have been involved in. Where do you point developers who are ready to get started? You know, they work for a similar company that does similar things, and they'd like to have a similar kind of accomplishment. Where do you point them so they can begin to learn and be effective?
I think the first thing they have to think about is what is the problem that I'm trying to solve. So some are, let's say, entering the market or trying to find out what is IT. IT is a cool hype for now, but you have to focus on your problem. So you focus to find a problem that you really want to solve, that really brings, if you solve it, that you get some value for the customer. identify that, and then the first point or the first thing I want to point people to is really our IoT page, which we have Azure IoT Hub information. We have the IoT suite, and that I think it's a good entry point to just have a high-level view of what's happening there, what's possible, the different scenarios, and then you can dive deeper into our documentation. And then we have a lot of sample code, and as a result of this engagement, just for example, we have also created a, let's say, reusable components that you can use and take over to another project maybe, just for the basic part, of course, because there is, of course, things that ABUS are very ABUS specific that we don't cover here, but we have, let's say, a good starting point.
Sure.
For local connectivity. Yeah, so I think
that's good advice, by the way. To even start with the business problem is makes plenty of sense. Don't start with an IoT solution. Start with the business problem, because even look at ABUS, right? They have what you might think is a generic IoT solution, but until you start digging deeper and you see things like, well, what about local whenever it's disconnected, and what about all these other scenarios that come in that are going to be specific to whatever business is trying to implement this. So don't forget that even though solution to solution there's a lot of similarity, business to business there is differentiation between them that give them both their value proposition and everything else. Daniel, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, and thanks for having us there. I think the best part was that we had the chance to really talk about that, and I hope that it will generate some, let's say, audience or interest in the audience about how we do projects and how the technology can help.
Nice. And Stuart, thanks for talking to us about ABUS. I feel like the future is very, very bright. Congratulations on all the things that you've accomplished and the things that are coming soon. I think it's very exciting for both you, your business, and of course for your customers as well. Today, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You bet. We'll see you again.